I wasn't supposed to be in the executive lounge. That room was for the people with company cars, company cards, and company secrets. The kind of people who smiled with their teeth and stabbed with their signatures. I only went in because the coffee in the break room tasted like burned regret, and it was Monday. The lounge smelled like citrus, leather, and expensive silence. Floor-to-ceiling glass, a skyline that looked like it belonged to someone else's life. I grabbed a paper cup. I turned, and that's when I saw them. Two silhouettes behind the frosted glass conference wall. One of them was Grant Holloway, our CEO, tall, silver at the temples, always laughing like he owned the air. The other was a woman in a cream blazer, hair perfect, posture even more perfect. Vivian Holloway, his wife. Her name was on the wall downstairs. Vivian Holloway Philanthropy Suite. Like the building itself was grateful she existed. And Grant was leaning in close, murmuring something that made her smile. Then the woman laughed, and she wasn't Vivian. She looked like Vivian from behind, same sleek bob, same expensive shoes, but when she turned, I saw her face clearly. It was Marissa Kane, Director of Compliance. The person who ran ethics meetings like they were funerals. The person who once wrote me up for using the wrong template. Grant's hand was on her waist. Marissa's fingers were curled around his tie, and it hit me like cold water. Our CEO wasn't just breaking rules, he was rewriting them. I backed away quietly, heart thudding. My cup trembled in my hand, the lid clicked. The frosted glass didn't show everything, but it showed enough. And in that moment, I knew something I couldn't unknow. I should have walked away. I should have pretended it never happened. But that's the thing about truth. Once it sees you, it follows you home. That night, I sat in my apartment with my laptop open and the city blinking outside my window like it was trying to warn me. I was a senior analyst in strategic partnerships. Not fancy, not powerful, just valuable enough to be used. I'd spent 6 years climbing. I'd worked through layoffs, weekends, and the kind of meetings that drained your soul and called it alignment. I kept telling myself it was worth it. Because I had a plan. I was building a quiet escape. A small side business, nothing illegal, nothing shady, just a digital consulting service for small local brands. I didn't advertise it publicly, I didn't use company time, I didn't use company tools. But I did use one thing from Atlas and Crown. Knowledge. How to negotiate. How to pitch. How to present value like it was oxygen. My business had started pulling in real money. Not billionaire money. Freedom money. The kind of money that whispered, one day soon, you won't have to smile at people who don't deserve it. But the next morning, at 9:07 a.m., my freedom got dragged into the light. An email hit my inbox. Subject, urgent, compliance review meeting. Sender, Marissa Kane. My stomach tightened. It was like my body knew before my mind could catch up. The meeting invite was for 10:00 a.m. No agenda, no details, just a location, conference room 14B. The glass one. I walked in and found her waiting. Marissa was seated at the far end of the table like a judge. Grant wasn't there. But his presence was. It was in the way she smiled like she had backup. It was in the way 2 HR reps sat beside her, stiff and quiet, like they were furniture. Marissa folded her hands. Alina, she said, stretching my name like she was tasting it. I sat down carefully. What's this about? She slid a folder across the table. My name was on it, my employee ID. And then printed screenshots, my website, my client emails, my invoice templates. My blood turned to ice. That's private, I whispered. Marissa tilted her head. Nothing is private when it intersects with company interest. It doesn't, I said, voice shaking. I don't compete with Atlas and Crown. You consult businesses, she replied. We consult businesses. We consult Fortune 500s, I snapped before I could stop myself. I help bakeries and salons. One of the HR reps cleared her throat like I'd broken a rule by breathing too loudly. Marissa leaned forward. Your side operation is a conflict of interest, and you failed to disclose it. I wasn't required to disclose it, I said. It's not in my contract. Marissa's smile sharpened. We updated the policy last quarter. Page 14. She tapped the folder like it was a coffin. I remembered that update. A long PDF attached to an email titled Minor Revisions. Everyone ignored it. Because it was always minor. You're not firing me over this, I said, trying to stay steady. I don't decide that, Marissa replied softly. But I do decide what goes into the report. She let that hang. Then she added, almost gently, you should have told me, Elena. Transparency matters. I stared at her, my mind racing. This was not random. This was targeted. How did you get these? I asked. Marissa didn't blink. We have ways. I felt sick. You hacked me? We audited company network activity, she said smoothly. We found patterns. I knew that was a lie, because I never used company Wi-Fi for my business. I used my phone's hotspot. I was careful. But she didn't need truth. She needed leverage. She stood up, gathering the folder. For now, you're on administrative leave while we investigate. My mouth went dry. For how long? As long as it takes. The HR rep finally spoke. You'll receive a formal notice today. Marissa paused at the door and looked back at me. Her eyes were calm, cold, and something else, like she was enjoying this. Sometimes, she said, ambition makes people sloppy. Then she walked out. I sat there alone, staring at the empty chair where Grant should have been. And suddenly, my brain replayed that moment in the executive lounge. Grant's hand on her waist, her fingers on his tie. And I understood. She wasn't just the compliance director. She was protected. And she was hunting. By noon, my building access was revoked, my company email locked, my work phone shut down like a dead heartbeat. 6 years of loyalty deleted with a click. I drove home with my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles hurt. The city looked different when you realized you could lose everything. I walked into my apartment and sat on the floor, still wearing my blazer, still holding my badge like it might start working again. Then my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. I answered anyway. A male voice. Low. Controlled. Elena Pierce? Yes. This is Daniel Reyes. The name hit a memory like a match. Daniel Reyes was our former VP of operations. He'd been fired 2 months ago. Publicly, it was called mutual separation. Privately, everyone knew he'd been pushed out. He continued, I heard you're on leave. My throat tightened. Who is this really? It's really me, he said. And I'm calling because you're not the first. Silence filled the line. I swallowed. Not the first what? Not the first person Marissa Kane has destroyed to protect Grant Holloway. My heart started pounding again. How do you know? I asked. A breath. Then, because she did it to me, I stood up slowly, like the floor had become unstable. Daniel's voice stayed calm. Before you hang up, I want you to think about something. You're careful. You're smart. You don't make mistakes. But they still found you. That wasn't an audit, I whispered. No, he said. It was a warning. Or an invitation. To what? To be quiet, Daniel replied. Or to become a problem. I walked to my window and stared at the traffic below, people living normal lives. What do you want from me? I asked. I want you to survive, he said. And if you're brave, I want you to help me burn down the lie. My hands trembled. I don't even know what's real right now. Daniel's voice softened, just slightly. Then, start with what you saw. My chest tightened. I didn't answer. He continued anyway. Grant and Marissa have been siphoning money through shell vendors, fake invoices, inflated contracts. They've been using the company like a personal ATM. My stomach turned. That's huge, I whispered. Yes, he said. and you're standing close enough to the fire that you're already getting burned. I pressed my forehead to the glass. How do you know I saw something? I asked. Daniel paused. Because Marissa doesn't move like this unless she feels exposed. My breath caught. So she knew. Somehow, she knew I'd seen them. And this whole thing, this compliance review, was her making sure I never spoke. Daniel continued, Elena, listen carefully. They're going to offer you a deal. A deal? Resign quietly, he said. Sign an ENDA. Walk away. And they'll let you keep your reputation. My throat tightened. And if I don't? Daniel's voice went flat. They'll ruin you. They'll call you unethical. They'll leak your side businesses as a scandal. They'll make sure no serious company hires you again. I felt the walls closing in. I'd seen people get blacklisted before. Not officially, just quietly. A whisper campaign. A few calls made, a few doors locked. And what about you? I asked. Why are you calling me? Why now? Daniel exhaled. Because I'm done being afraid, and because I think you're the kind of person who doesn't stay on the floor. I looked down at my badge, a piece of plastic with my face on it, like a joke. I need proof, I whispered. I have some, Daniel said, but not enough to take them down cleanly. A pause. Do you have more? He asked. I swallowed. I thought about the lounge, the frosted glass, the hand on the waist, the compliance folder, the screenshots. My voice came out thin. Maybe, Daniel's tone sharpened. Then we need to meet. Somewhere private, I hesitated. Every instinct screamed danger. But another part of me, the part that had swallowed disrespect for years, was suddenly awake and angry. When? I asked. Tonight, he said. 8 p.m., there's a diner off Harbor Avenue. The one with the neon sign that flickers. I knew it. I'd driven past it 100 times. Come alone, he added. And don't tell anyone. My pulse raced. How do I know you're not setting me up? Daniel didn't get offended. He sounded like he expected it. You don't, he said. But you can do one thing. Check your leave notice when it arrives. Read the language. You'll see they're building a case, not investigating one. My phone buzzed again. An email notification. Personal email from Atlas & Crown HR. Subject: Administrative Leave Notice. My stomach dropped. Daniel said quietly, There it is. I didn't open it yet. I couldn't. It felt like opening a door in a horror movie. Daniel continued, Elena, if you do nothing, they win. And they'll do this to someone else next. I closed my eyes. A memory surfaced. My first day at Atlas & Crown, wearing a cheap blazer, shaking hands with people who pretended they were kind. I'd believed hard work would protect me. I'd believed professionalism was armor. But it wasn't armor. It was bait. I opened my eyes. What if we fail? I asked. Daniel's voice went quiet. Then we go down swinging. The call ended. I stood there for a long time. Then I finally opened the email. The words were polite, careful, but the meaning was clear. They accused me of undisclosed external engagements. They said I had potentially compromised company interests. They said the investigation could result in termination for cause. For cause. That phrase was a guillotine. Because termination for cause meant no severance. It meant no unemployment. It meant a stain. And at the bottom, like a dagger in silk. During this period, you are required to remain available for interviews and may not access company resources or contact clients, partners, or employees without authorization. They were isolating me. They were cutting my voice. I felt something break inside me. Not sadness, not fear, something harder, something sharper. I grabbed my keys and walked out into the night. If Marissa wanted me quiet, she picked the wrong woman to threaten. At 7:48 p.m., I parked across from the diner. The neon sign flickered like a nervous heartbeat. Inside, people ate pancakes like the world was normal. I sat in my car and watched the door. My mind spun with worst-case scenarios. Maybe Daniel was lying. Maybe he was using me. Maybe this was bigger than I could handle. Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You should have stayed in your lane. No signature, no emoji, just a sentence that felt like a hand around my throat. I stared at it, breath shallow. Marissa. It had to be. She wasn't just watching my work life. She was watching me. I looked up and saw a black SUV parked near the corner, engine running, windows dark. My skin prickled. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. This wasn't just corporate politics anymore. This was control. This was intimidation. And that's when I realized something terrifying. They weren't afraid of Daniel. They were afraid of what I might know. I took a slow breath. Then another. I opened my car door and stepped out. The air was cold. The world felt too sharp. I crossed the street and pushed into the diner. The bell above the door chimed, bright and innocent. I scanned the booths. And there he was. Daniel Reyes sat alone in the back, facing the entrance like he'd expected trouble. He stood when he saw me. Mid-40s. Dark hair. Clean shaven. Eyes like someone who'd learned not to trust smiles. I slid into the booth across from him. For a moment, we just looked at each other. Then Daniel nodded toward my phone on the table. You got the message, he said. I swallowed. Yes. His jaw tightened. Good. That means we're close. Close to what? I asked. Daniel leaned in, voice low. Close to the truth. I felt my pulse in my throat. I need you to tell me everything, I said. From the beginning, Daniel's eyes didn't blink. Okay, he whispered, but once you hear it, you don't get to go back. I stared at him. I thought about my badge, my career, my freedom money, my life before the lounge, and I knew he was right. There was no going back. So I nodded, and Daniel began. Daniel's voice stayed low, like the diner walls had ears. Grant isn't just cheating, he said. He's laundering power. I tried to laugh, but it came out thin. That sounds like something from a movie. Daniel didn't smile. It's worse. Because it's real, a waitress slid 2 coffees onto our table and walked away. I watched the steam rise, my hands still cold from the walk-in. Daniel pulled a small notebook from his coat and set it between us like a weapon. Atlas & Crown has a vendor pool, he said. Marketing, consulting, events, the normal stuff. But inside that pool are 3 preferred vendors Grant personally pushed through. He flipped the notebook open. Names, numbers, dates. I leaned in. What am I looking at? Shell vendors, he said. They invoice for work that never happens. Or they inflate the price and kick the difference back to Grant and Marissa. My stomach rolled. How do you know? Daniel's eyes tightened. Because I approved some of those invoices, not knowing what they were. Then I started seeing patterns. He pointed to a line. Same phrasing on different invoices. Same formatting errors. Same fake deliverables listed in the attachments. I swallowed. Why would Marissa do it? She's compliance. That's the beauty of it, Daniel murmured. The fox isn't just in the hen house. The fox runs security. I stared at the names again, trying to make it feel less impossible. And then the fear hit me in a new way. If this was true, then the folder Marissa handed me this morning wasn't just intimidation. It was a warning from someone who believed she was untouchable. I lowered my voice. Why bring me into this? Daniel tapped the notebook. Because you're in strategic partnerships. You see contracts before they're finalized. You see language, pricing, scope, and you're not on their leash yet. Yet, I echoed, bitter. Daniel's gaze flicked toward the diner window. They tried to put you on it today. I thought of the black SUV outside. The text message. My throat tightened. She knows I saw something. Daniel nodded once. I suspected. Marissa has eyes everywhere. She monitors badge swipes. Camera feeds. Even meeting room occupancy. I felt my skin prickle. That's illegal. She doesn't care, he said, and neither does Grant. Their whole world is built on one belief. I leaned closer. What belief? Daniel's voice dropped even lower. That nobody will risk their own life to tell the truth. I sat back, my mind racing. This wasn't just corporate drama. This was a machine. And I'd accidentally stepped into the gears. Daniel slid his phone across the table. Look. On his screen was a spreadsheet photo, blurry, like it was taken in a hurry. A column of vendor payments, quarter after quarter. The numbers were unreal. My heart thudded. That's millions. Over 2 years, he said, and that's only the slice I could access before they locked me out. I stared at the screen until my eyes hurt. Why didn't you go to the board? I asked. Daniel's jaw flexed. I tried. He leaned back, and for the first time, his calm slipped. I scheduled a private meeting with one board member I trusted, he said. 2 hours later, Marissa summoned me for a leadership conduct review. She had screenshots of texts between me and my ex-wife. Old stuff, ugly stuff I froze. How would she? She digs, Daniel said. She finds your soft spot and squeezes. She told me if I pushed the vendor issue, she'd ensure the board understood my instability. His eyes narrowed. 2 weeks after that, I was gone. I felt sick. So you're telling me she blackmailed you? Daniel's voice went flat. I'm telling you she weaponizes shame. The words landed heavy. Because I'd felt it today. The folder. The HR reps. The careful language. They weren't investigating me. They were branding me. Daniel leaned forward again. Elena, listen. They'll contact you soon. They'll offer you a resignation option, maybe even a small payout. They'll act like they're being generous. I swallowed hard. And if I refuse, then they'll escalate, he said. Your clients will get anonymous emails. Your landlord will get tips. They'll find a way to make you look reckless. My chest tightened. This is insane. Daniel's eyes didn't leave mine. This is Atlas and Crown. I stared at the coffee I hadn't touched. My life suddenly felt like it was being watched from above, like a camera angle I couldn't escape. I forced myself to breathe. Okay, if what you're saying is true, what do we do? Daniel's expression sharpened, like he'd been waiting for that question. We build a clean case, he said. We don't rant, we don't guess, we document. We trap them with their own numbers. My hands trembled under the table. And then what? Then we hand it to the right people, he replied. The board, regulators, federal investigators. The kind of people Grant can't charm. A wave of fear rose in my throat. That would destroy them. Daniel's mouth barely moved. That's the point. I looked out the window again. The black SUV was still there. Engine still running. I turned back to Daniel. Someone's watching. He didn't even look. I know. My blood went cold. How can you be so calm? His eyes were tired. Because fear is their favorite currency. If you stop spending it, their whole economy collapses. I didn't feel brave. I felt trapped. And trapped people do one of two things. They beg. Or they bite. Daniel opened his notebook again and wrote something down, slow and deliberate. Here's what I need from you, he said. Access. I don't have access, I whispered. I'm locked out. Not to Atlas systems, he said. To your memory, I frowned. What? Daniel leaned closer. Tell me everything you've touched in the last month. Contracts, partner deals, vendor renewals. Anything Grant has his fingerprints on? I tried to think, but my brain was buzzing. Then a name surfaced. I felt my stomach sink. Blue Orchard Consulting, I said quietly. Daniel's eyes snapped up. What about it? It's one of the vendors you just showed me, I said. They're on my project. Daniel went still. I continued, voice tight. We're launching a partnership expansion with a regional bank. We needed an external reputation strategy team. Blue Orchard was added last minute. Daniel's jaw tightened. Who added them? I didn't want to say it. But the truth came out anyway. Grant. Daniel exhaled slowly, like that confirmed something he'd feared. Do you have the scope? He asked. The sow? I did, I said. Before my axis got cut. Daniel nodded. But you might still have something. A download. A printout. Notes. Anything. My mind flashed to my tote bag in the passenger seat of my car. I'd taken home a copy of the partnership timeline last week. Not the full contract, just a planning deck. But decks had attachments, and sometimes when you export a deck, the embedded links preserve metadata. My pulse spiked. I might? Daniel's eyes narrowed. Where is it? In my car, I whispered. Get it, he said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I hesitated. Right now, he looked past me toward the window. Right now, my throat tightened. The SUV was still there. Watching. Waiting. I slid out of the booth, my legs stiff. The bell chimed again as I stepped into the cold night. The air felt louder outside. I crossed the parking lot with my shoulders tight, pretending I wasn't scared. I reached my car, opened the door, and grabbed my tote bag. And that's when I saw it. A small white envelope tucked under my wiper. No stamp, no return address, just my name written neatly in black ink. Elena. My hands shook as I pulled it free. Inside was a single sheet of paper. 4 words. We know where you live. My throat closed. For a second, I couldn't move. Then I felt the sick heat of anger rise under my skin. Not panic, not helplessness. Rage. I turned slowly, scanning the lot. The black SUV's lights flickered. The engine growled softly. Then it began to roll forward. Toward me. My heart slammed against my ribs. I backed up, gripping my tote bag like a shield. The SUV stopped a few feet away, the driver's side window lowered just an inch. Not enough to see a face, just enough to feel the threat. A male voice came through, low and amused. Go home, Elena. I froze. My mouth went dry. The voice continued. You're not built for this. Don't make us prove it. Then the window slid back up. The SUV rolled away, slow and confident, like it owned the night. I stood there shaking, staring at its taillights until they vanished. When I finally walked back inside, the diner felt too bright, too normal. Daniel looked at my face and knew immediately. He held out his hand. What happened? I placed the paper on the table. Daniel read it. His expression hardened. They moved fast, he muttered. I swallowed hard. Is this your idea of survival? Daniel's eyes lifted to mine. No. This is their idea of control. My voice cracked. I live alone. Daniel nodded once. Not anymore. I stiffened. What does that mean? It means you take precautions, he said. You tell a friend you're not feeling safe. You park in lit places. You change routines. And you stop treating this like HR drama. I stared at him, pulse racing. Then he slid something across the table. A small flash drive, black, unmarked. What's this? I asked. Daniel's voice was steady. Everything I could pull before I got locked out. Payment histories, email fragments, vendor patterns. I didn't touch it. If I take that, I'm in. You've been in, he said softly. Since the moment you saw them, my breath shook. I reached for it anyway. The plastic felt too light to be so dangerous. Daniel leaned back. Now show me what you brought. I opened my tote bag and pulled out the printed partnership deck, edges bent. I slid it across. Daniel flipped through fast, eyes scanning like he was reading code. Then he stopped. A small smile, grim, satisfied, tugged at his mouth. What? I whispered. He tapped a page with an embedded link. Here, he said. This link points to an internal SharePoint folder. My stomach dropped. But I'm locked out. Not forever, he said. I stared at him. Daniel. He met my eyes. Elena, do you want revenge or do you want justice? I swallowed hard. I want my life back. Daniel nodded slowly. Then we're going to take theirs apart. Piece by piece. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed with my apartment lights off, listening to the building settle, every small noise turning into a possible footstep. I checked the locks 3 times. I kept the envelope on my kitchen counter like proof I wasn't imagining things. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. Another email. Personal inbox. From vivian.holloway.foundation@gmail.com alto, vivian.holloway.foundation@gmail.com. My stomach flipped. Vivian, Grant's wife. I opened it with shaking fingers. The email was short, almost polite. Hello, Elena. I'm reaching out because I believe we should speak. Privately. Please meet me tomorrow at 1:00 p.m. at the Lark Hotel Lounge. I think you may know something that concerns me. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. She knew, or she suspected. Either way, she was stepping into this. And if Vivian was moving, it meant the ground was shifting. I sat there in the dark, staring at the email until my eyes burned. Then another message arrived. This one from an unknown number. A photo. My apartment building entrance. Taken from across the street. Timestamped. 11 minutes ago. Under the photo, 2 words. Don't go. My blood ran cold. I stared at my window like I might see someone staring back. Then I realized the worst part. 2 different forces were pulling me. Vivian wanted to meet. Someone else was warning me not to, and I couldn't tell who was the predator. I grabbed my phone and called Daniel. He answered on the second ring, voice rough with sleep. What is it? I swallowed. Vivian Holloway just emailed me. She wants to meet. Silence. Then Daniel said slowly, that changes everything. My voice shook. And someone sent me a photo of my building. They told me not to go. Daniel didn't hesitate. Forward me everything. Right now, I did, hands trembling. A moment later, Daniel's voice came back, sharp. Elena, listen to me carefully. What? If Vivian is reaching out, it means she's either scared or she's part of the trap. My chest tightened. So what do I do? Daniel's voice lowered, controlled. You go. I froze. Are you insane? You don't go alone, he continued, and you don't go unprepared. My breath caught. Prepared how? Daniel's words came like steel. We're going to find out which side Vivian is on. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt it. Not hope, not safety, but direction. I stared at the ceiling as dawn began to gray the sky. Tomorrow, at 1:00 p.m., I was walking into a hotel lounge with the CEO's wife. And somewhere in the city, someone was already deciding whether I'd walk out. I arrived at the Lark Hotel early, not because I wanted to be punctual, because I wanted time to breathe. The lobby smelled like polished wood and expensive calm. Soft music hummed under quiet conversations. People here wore confidence like perfume, the kind you buy when consequences rarely touch you. I chose a seat with my back to the wall. Daniel sat at the bar across the room, hat low, pretending to scroll his phone. He never looked at me, but I knew he was watching everything. At exactly 1:00 p.m., Vivian Holloway walked in. She didn't rush. She didn't scan the room nervously. She moved like someone who had never been told no and didn't expect to start today. Up close, she looked human, not the icy philanthropic figure from press photos. Her eyes were tired, her smile polite, but tight around the edges. Elena, she said softly as she approached. Thank you for coming. I stood. You said you wanted to speak privately. She glanced around the lounge, then back at me. This is as private as I get these days. She sat, folding her hands on the table. I noticed her wedding ring was missing. That detail felt important. I'll be direct, Vivian said. I believe my husband is lying to me. I held my expression still. About what? About everything, she replied, but especially about Marissa Kane. My pulse quickened. Vivian's voice stayed calm, but her fingers tightened. Grant tells me Marissa is indispensable, loyal, ethical. She looked up at me. You don't look like someone who believes that. I took a careful breath. Why are you talking to me? Because people don't destroy careers without a reason, Vivian said. And because my foundation's accounts have started showing irregularities, my heart skipped. Your foundation? She nodded. Grant insisted on consolidating our finances last year. He said it would simplify taxes. Transparency. Her lips pressed together. It simplified theft. The room felt suddenly smaller. I hired an external auditor, Vivian continued. 2 days later, Marissa shut it down, claimed it violated corporate boundaries. Vivian's eyes hardened. That's when I knew. I chose my words carefully. Knew what? That I was being managed, she said, like an asset or a liability. Silence stretched between us. Then Vivian leaned in. What did you see, Elena? I thought of the frosted glass, the hand on the waist, the smile, and I realized something. Vivian didn't know. Not fully. I saw your husband and Marissa together, I said quietly. Intimate. Vivian didn't flinch. I suspected, she said, but suspicion doesn't give you leverage. She reached into her purse and slid a thin folder across the table. I need proof, she said. Real proof. And I believe you might have access to it. My heart pounded. Why would you trust me? Vivian's gaze didn't waver. Because they underestimated you. And people like Grant always underestimate women who don't scream. Across the room, Daniel lifted his glass, pretending to sip. Vivian lowered her voice. Help me expose them, Elena. Not for revenge. For survival. I swallowed. And if I say no? Vivian's smile faded. Then I'll assume you're already too afraid. And I'll protect myself another way. The implication hung heavy. I thought of the envelope. The photo of my building. The SUV. Fear had already found me. I'll help, I said. Vivian exhaled slowly. Good, she stood. You have 72 hours. After that, Grant moves the money offshore. Once that happens, it disappears. She paused. And Elena? Yes? If this works, I will make sure you never have to look over your shoulder again. Then she walked away, heels clicking like a countdown. Daniel joined me seconds later. You okay? He asked quietly. I just partnered with the CEO's wife, I said. Daniel's mouth curved into a grim smile. That's one way to escalate. The next 3 days blurred together. Sleep became optional. Fear became background noise. Daniel and I worked out of different locations, never the same place twice. He guided. I remembered. Every contract I touched, every vendor name, every strange instruction that hadn't made sense at the time. We rebuilt the trail. Blue Orchard Consulting was the spine. Through metadata, archived emails, and payment logs Daniel had preserved, we traced the flow. Grant approved the vendors. Marissa structured the compliance language. Vivian's foundation was used as a pass-through. Charity hid the theft. By day 2, we had enough to ruin them. By day 3, we had enough to bury them. The night before submission, I sat alone in my apartment, lights off, laptop glowing. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A message. Last chance. Walk away. Then another. We can make this easy. Then a call. I didn't answer. Seconds later, my doorbell rang. My blood froze. I moved silently, peeking through the peephole. Grant Holloway stood outside. No smile, no charm, just cold calculation. I didn't open the door. Elena, he called, voice calm. We need to talk. I stayed silent. I know you're scared, he continued. And I don't blame you. Marissa may have gone too far. A lie. I can fix this, he said. Severance. Enda. A recommendation letter. I laughed quietly, shaking. Open the door, Grant said, patience thinning. Don't make this harder. I stepped back and spoke loudly enough for the door to hear. Go away. Silence. Then his voice dropped. You think Vivian is on your side? He said. She's protecting herself. When this blows up, she'll survive. You won't. My heart raced. Open the door, he repeated. No, I said, stronger now. A long pause. Then footsteps. The peephole showed an empty hallway. I sank to the floor, shaking. 10 minutes later, Daniel called. Did he come to you? He asked. Yes, good, Daniel said. That means he's panicking. The next morning, we submitted everything. Board members, federal regulators, independent journalists. Once truth leaves your hands, it moves fast. By noon, Atlas & Crown's stock dipped. By evening, Grant Holloway resigned for personal reasons. Marissa Kane was placed on immediate leave. By midnight, the FBI sealed the offices. I watched the news from my couch, numb. The black SUV never came back. 2 weeks later, Vivian called. It's done, she said. Grant has been indicted. Marissa took a plea deal. I closed my eyes. And me? I asked. Vivian's voice softened. You're free. True to her word, she funded my consulting firm's expansion quietly. No headlines, no favors owed. Daniel testified. Then disappeared from the corporate world entirely. He sent me one final message. Fear only works if you obey it. 6 months later, I walked past the Atlas & Crown building. The name was gone. Glass reflected the sky like it always had, but the power inside it was empty. I didn't feel victorious. I felt lighter. Some revenge stories end with fire. Mine ended with truth. And that was enough.